This is where, they say, oh, well, you just got lucky. It's like, no, luck is when you just show up to the right place over and over and over again until it becomes the right time, right? We say it, we used to
I like that.
to get discovered, you just keep playing in the same places until it becomes that right time.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Remington Ramsey, and today my guest is Amanda Holmes, who is revamping her father's work. If you know the name Chet Holmes, the ultimate sales machine, she has revamped the national bestseller, and she is touring the world, sharing the ideas behind the principles that, in her words, is the fastest, least expensive way to double sales. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
I'm so happy to be here, Remington.
Amanda, I've gotten to know you a little bit. You've got a great spirit. And I told you before the show that I wanted to start off this particular episode with a tribute to my dear friend, John Ruhlin, because he's the one that introduced me to you. And we just got news that a couple of days ago that John actually passed away. And we don't know a lot. He had a couple of health complications before that they ruled just a fluke thing. And ultimately on vacation with his family in Utah, they weren't able to resuscitate him after he passed out. So I'm still in shock. I was very close to John. I was telling you, Amanda, I was going through the text messages that he would send. When he would send intros, he would do videos. And so he would typically connect people and talk about their faith and then talk about whatever it was business-wise that they needed to connect on. But I know you met him a couple of times in passing. I appreciate you being generous enough to share some of the podcast time and almost memorial for John Ruhlin.
Oh, well, every time there was just such raving reviews of John. Everyone has something wonderful to say about that man. It was obvious that he lived his life by the quality of caring for people and showing up for them in a way that majority of people can't even fathom a fraction of that.
Yeah.
And for those that are familiar, I know you're so familiar, but the author of Giftology, right? Many people have read that wonderful book, and it just promoted the idea of like caring for other humans and building relationships that last. So
the cool thing about John is he had surrounded himself with the great community, both locally and abroad. He and his family are very much loved. And John is he was a big thinker, just the biggest thinker imaginable. He created this concept where his whole thing was gifting, right? So what do you gift someone who has everything? And like the CEOs of these companies, or the most recent one I saw, he was with Tim Tebow. What do you gift Tim Tebow? And so they started creating these love bombs, is I think what he called it, where basically he would gift a $50 piece of art and talk about the love behind the piece of art to these people, and he'd give away on stage. I mean, just things that no one ever thought of. That's not the focus of this podcast. It's just by the fact that you and I are talking because of John, and it just happened recently. I just wanted to say we love you, John, and we love you. We love your family, and we're praying for everyone involved. So that's where we wanted to start today.
yes, it's a beautiful honoring, as he deserves.
So Amanda, shifting gears, you are a singer-songwriter, very musical. In fact, one of your fun facts, I think, is you love singing Sanskrit chants.
Yes.
I don't know if we, have enough time on the show for you to kind of give us a taste of that, but that was your entrance into the world was music. But at some point, you got the itch or decided to take on your father's legacy. Can you kind of briefly share what that looked like?
It passed, actually. And I inherited, we had a year and a half of him fighting cancer. So you'd think that there would have been plans in place, and there really weren't. I hope that John's family is supported in that way because, you just don't know when your last day is going to be, right? And we knew that his last days were coming, and yet there was never a dialogue of me taking over the business or being a part of the business whatsoever. So when he passed, they gave me an honorary chairwoman of the board and a couple hundred people serving the company. It was an utter shock. And the first couple of years, I tried to find different C-suites to fill the void because I thought, I'm 24. I just released my third record. I can't run this thing. I know nothing about this business.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I finally actually did step in as CEO at 26. In my first year, I increased our leads by 1,176%. I doubled
Hey,
our
that's a good number.
yeah, I doubled our coaching clients multiple years in a row. I used Dream 100 to do that, by the way, and I could talk about it. And now it's been a decade that I've been living and breathing. I basically had to just read his book over and over and over again. I watched his video
Yeah.
over and over again. I am a product of what we teach, and we wouldn't be here today if it weren't a methodology that actually works.
What a testimonial to the fact that it works. Like, taking someone who didn't really have a business background, or wasn't paying attention in class when dad was talking, and then
Not
decided,
at
hey,
all.
I'm going to learn this business. And what did you do? You read the book to get good at it over and over again. So, the ultimate sales machine, one of the concepts in there that I used back in my closing gift days when I was selling closing gifts was this Dream 100 list. And I've since talked about it. It was one of the things that when I got into real estate as a vendor trying to sell closing gifts, I didn't really know all the real estate lingo. I didn't know all the players. And so what it forced me to do was create a list of 100 people that I aspired to do business with, write a letter to them saying why I wanted to do business with, putting that out into the universe, gifting that letter along with a knife or another closing gift that I had to that person with the hopes that eventually they or someone close to them would do business with me. And I got to be honest, that was one of the major things that helped me break the rookie record that year was the Dream 100 list. I've talked about it for 10 years now. So your phrase was the fastest, least expensive way to double sales. So
Yeah.
you can use me, or I guess you have another case study. Explain exactly in grave detail what that is.
Yeah. So, by definition, and for those that are listening, if you have a pen and paper or have it in your notes, write this down. There are always a smaller number of better buyers than there are all buyers. That means that marketing and selling to them is cheaper than marketing and selling to all buyers. So I'll give
Mm,
you an example of one. I love your example, right? Majority of people just go through their lives chasing after that dollar and chasing after one after the next, not realizing that majority of the time, 80% of our profits are made from 20%, maybe even less of our clientele. So, who is that better buyer? It's not always that it's the biggest, but it's also the most strategic. So, for instance, I've been wanting to get into the healthcare market because I believe that our healthcare system is very broken. I watched my
mm,
father die in it. I want to fix it. So I started focusing on biohacking companies and I identified a gentleman by the name of Dave Asprey. Have you ever heard of Dave Asprey?
yeah, I follow him on Instagram. He's got some really interesting takes.
Yeah, so a million followers there, four-time best-selling author. He runs the biohacking industry conference, which is the largest in the world. He owns about 50 different businesses. He was my dream one because sometimes it just takes one person that could completely change your world.
Mm.
Because sometimes we get overwhelmed. A lot of people are not as high achieving as you, Remington, and they hear 100 and they think, oh my God, 100. Well, can we just come up with one first? Who is one that could completely change your world? So we identified Dave. Over a plan of 6 months, we reached out to him on 8 different platforms over and over and over again with what we call pig-headed discipline and determination. We ended up making a partnership with him. So now I'm speaking to all of his clients, which never would have happened. I mean, there's people that got angry at us at this last biohacking conference and said, how did you manage that? Because I've been trying to be partners with them for 15 years and you did it in
Mhm.
less than 6 months. So what does it take? It takes identifying that one that could completely change the course and direction, right? We went from nobody knowing us in the biohacking industry to now we are partnered with the number one individual.
Yeah.
The pig-headed discipline and determination to continue to focus on them, to be in their face, in their place, in their space.
So it took you 6 months to get in there. How many times did it feel like you were just hitting dead ends, like where you're actively seeking a partnership with them? And we know the end of the story, so you actually did it. But were there times where
Yeah.
you're like, maybe this isn't worth it?
Absolutely. Month 4, I think it really hit. And this is where, they say, "Oh, well, you just got lucky." It's like, no, luck is when you just show up to the right place over and over and over again until it becomes the right time, right? We say it, we used to
Mm,
get
I
it
like
straight.
that.
How you get discovered. to get discovered, you just keep playing in the same places until it becomes that right time.
Yeah.
So we just kept showing up and kept getting more and more opportunities. I think the first time I was supposed to get his cell phone, I chickened out and I didn't ask for it. And I like ran into my room upset, like, oh man, I just failed us. And then my head of sales, Troy Iverly, ended up coming in and he got his cell phone number. And because of that, four more things happened. And then we got a dinner with him. And instead of having a sales conversation where it was all about pitch, 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 we ended up spending 5 hours together, and there was probably about 3 minutes of that we actually talked business, and that's what sealed the deal.
I love those stories. I love the stories where you get an idea and then you put something in place to actually make it happen and then you follow through because there's going to be, in 99% of these stories, the friction at some point where you wonder if it's worth it to keep going. And that's where most people quit. And that's where what I believe failure actually happens is when you just stop.
I'll
And
give
you
you a
didn't.
stat on that. I'll give you a
Okay.
stat on that. So 80% of sales come on the 5th to 12th contact, and 75% of sales reps give up after just 3. So
Mm.
majority of people will give up just 3 tries. It takes so much more than that. So
This is
just
what
to
I love about your program and your books too, because you break it down into numbers and numbers don't lie. Or I mean, I guess you can make them lie, but what I love about numbers is that you can reduce it to a math equation versus emotions that go into it. And sometimes when life is tough, I mean, right now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm in a really tough stage of life. I have a 10-year-old baby, right?
today you're
Got 10, sorry, 10-day old. Yeah.
10 yeah, you said
What
10
I
years.
Oh, 10-year-old baby, that'd be weird.
Obviously, you
I
haven't slept.
I haven't slept, right? Just got, news of a friend and all this stuff. If you're in sales and business, there's times where like it just doesn't make sense for today to be filled with sales calls. Yet, if you take the emotions out of things and you realize that this is just a number equation, did you make the calls that you need? Because if you make the calls you need, the results will be there. That's what I love about the ultimate sales machine. So keep going. I just think that's a great focus.
Oh, I love that. So I was doing a training. We do Dream 100 boot camps where we teach people how to craft that and deploy a Dream 100 campaign. And I was showing live because I love to do them while I'm teaching them because I want to be a product of our product. And
Mhm.
I had identified Multilal Oswal. This company has served 1 million Indians in financial services. And I really wanted their business because I want to blend Eastern medicine and Western medicine. And if I have an influencer in India that can influence 1 million Indians, then it'll also assist me both in my business and in my mission. So I was emailing him and I was trying to get his attention, and his responses were like 3 words, maybe 4 words. But in a matter of an hour and a half, I got 5 emails back from him one Saturday morning. So I come Monday saying, "Hey guys, check this out. Look what happened. These are all the conversations I had with a billionaire on Saturday to show you guys that this works." And this one guy reaches out and he says, "Amanda, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that guy was so disrespectful of you. Didn't you
Mm.
see? Like, I wouldn't have kept talking to him. He wouldn't even say a full sentence." And my response to him, I was utterly shocked. I'm like, "Oh no, I mean nothing to this man. I have to earn his trust. And I am perfectly okay with being nobody until he can see that I am so determined there was nothing you could do to deter me away from assisting." And with every step I took, I did something to add value to him. How do you add value to a billionaire? Well, it just so happened I was telling him that he's very wise, and I looked through his Twitter account and I noticed that all he talked about was legacy. He was at a point in his life where he was investing in schools, he was investing in ashrams, he was giving back to the community with every step. And I said, you know what? It would hurt not to have a book of yours to give to others. And you see Ultimate Sales Machine, you love Ultimate Sales Machine, but have you written a book? And he said, "Oh no, that is a good idea though." Right? Good idea. That's all I got. Then a year later, and this was 6 years in the making, it took me 6 years to book the speaking engagement where I got to speak in their head offices in Mumbai. And they actually gifted me this picture of me and my father from stage. Of course, I bawled. It was so embarrassing.
The one behind you. So if you're
Yeah.
listening to this, check out the YouTube version because you can see the picture
Oh,
she's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they gifted me a picture of me and my father, and in that room, one guy said, "So when do you give up?" And I laughed, and I stood up to the front of the stage, and I said, "It took me 6 years to stand in front of you all here. How long have you reached out to your prospects and continued to follow up? Have you done that for anybody for 6 years?" And they all shook their heads, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's," but you can't do that with everybody, right? You
I was
have
gonna
to
say, so the other
care
side
about
of that,
you.
yeah, so the other side of that is like if I'm thinking I'm in a shorter form sales process and I can't wait on the six. I think if you bring that to real estate, if I'm a realtor or even if I'm a lender and I'm calling on realtors, um, your book and the methods in there aren't just for the long plays. The long plays are to essentially for the big thinking, like I want to go after that person, the inspiring client. But along the way, all these principles and the Dream 100 in itself leads to much quicker conversions. At least it did for me.
Well, to speak to that as well, I believe that you're always in the middle of a Dream 100. So it's 7 times cheaper to upsell a current client than it is to find a new one.
Hmm.
So looking back, what are the best clients that I've had and how can I sell them another home? Find
Yeah.
out if their family needs a home, find out if their aunt needs a home, right? Asking for the referral, finding that, oh, I was just talking to a real estate broker. I was speaking at at an event, a real estate event. And this woman, I asked her, "Where do you get the most amount of clients from?" And she said, "I'm embarrassed to say this, but it's actually schools, my kid's school."
Mm.
And I went, if you got just one other school that you could support all of the people at that school with their real estate, what would that do for your business? And she said, it would double it. And you could see the relief come off of her shoulders to
Mm.
realize I don't have to hustle at every event, trying to find different networking events to meet all these people. If I just focus in one place with one community and add another community, that could, double my production. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
So let's talk about the actual process because it starts with a letter. At least it did for me. So we're talking about 12 years ago. Remington created this letter. And if you're listening to this podcast, we want to have a conversation with you. So send us an email at podcast@realproducersmag.com. And in the subject line, put Dream 100. And I will personally email you the letter that I use, which is a version of what they put in the book. And the first person to email me from this show, I'll buy you the book Ultimate Sales Machine, the new edition with emblem.
Oh.
All right. And so the first one gets that free book, but anyone else who emails me, Dream 100, asking for that, I will send you back the letter that I used to sell more closing gifts. But the process doesn't just end with the letter. So coach me through what you would coach one of your coaching clients to put this Dream 100, the ultimate sales machine, in action to double their business fast and least expensive.
So like I said, first it's identifying who
Okay.
and success leaves clues. So looking back, who have been the top 5 most successful clients, referrers, strategic partners, right? Who's somebody that benefits from what you serve? So looking back to the historical proof to then say, okay, in the future, now that I'm a real estate broker and I know that lawyers happen to be a great partner because this one lawyer, every time people get divorced, someone has to sell a home and they could
Mhm.
probably refer me, another 20 clients a year, which would be great. Why not
Mhm.
focus in on lawyers? I'm just giving an example. I don't know if it
Yeah.
would.
So let's stay with that. So you write the letter to the lawyer and then what?
Well, so it doesn't always have to be a letter, actually. What's interesting is, so my father came up with Dream 100 before the internet. So the next step would be, once you identify who, then we
Okay.
identify where did they spend their time,
Mhm.
right? And I just recently did this. We built a Dream 100, and I found that 6% of my Dream 100 were on Instagram. And I will tell you that I have leaned hard into Instagram for the last year. And I'm looking at this going, what was I doing?
Mm.
Only 6% of my dream prospects are there, but 47% of them are on LinkedIn and another 38% of them are on Twitter. I'm
Mm.
on the wrong mediums. That's fairly obnoxious, but okay, I'll accept. Reverse engineering and finding where did they spend their time? Who do they follow? We can get that intel today. Is it different social media platforms? Is it different influencers? Is it specific blogs? Is it different groups that they have on LinkedIn? where did they spend their time? So then we can decide how we're going to reach out. And the perception that you're creating is that you are in their face, in their place, in their space. You are everywhere to them. You're actually not everywhere to everyone, right? You're just everywhere to just a couple, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at who are the community leaders in your area and you're trying to infiltrate them to then promote you to everyone else, you find out, oh, well, there's this DJ that speaks in Nashville. I was talking, there was a valet driver at this event in Nashville, and it turned out he had 2 million followers and he was the one driving the limo. I'm like, what is going on? You have 2
Wow.
followers and you're driving a limo? And he said, "Oh, I'm just helping out a friend, but I was a DJ on TV in Nashville for 20 years, so people know my face really well, and I actually sell commercials on my Instagram page for real estate brokers."
Oh, wow.
Right? Just another idea of a Dream 100. So
Mm-hmm.
identifying those few, finding where they spend their time, and actually doing some research. Okay, I'm starting to see a trend. This is where they spend their time. This is the groups that they do. These are the people that they follow, so that you can reverse engineer, so you know which podcast to be on. You can find which blog posts they follow, right? So this all helps architect then where you reach out to them. And I would say you must, to have great success with the Dream 100, commit to 6 months worth of reach out. Okay.
Okay.
That's where you really make the lasting impression, where they go from, I've never heard of you, to, oh, I think I've heard of them, to, oh, I'm familiar, to, we work together.
So this is where I feel like the reach out needs specific coaching, because when you sit, like
Yeah.
I've been in real estate circles and been in thousands of meetings where they go, hey, how do you lead gen? And they're like, okay, from 1 to 3 on Wednesday, I generate leads. And that's where the conversation ends. And you're thinking to yourself, what on earth does that mean? Like, are you searching the web for people with, a certain name? Like, so this is where I feel like most people hear it, think it's a good idea, and then don't actually know exactly what to do in that moment. So describe
Right.
what the reach out for 6 months
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah. So 6 months, then you want to commit to how frequently you want to reach out. So for some people, they have a lot going on. So just reaching out once a month could be the frequency. It could
What does
be,
that mean though? Are they calling them? Are they texting them, emailing them? What
I
is the
haven't gotten
message?
there yet.
Oh,
I
okay.
have,
Sorry. I'm getting too
it's okay.
fast.
It's okay. No, so the next step is the frequency. What do you, because some people could reach out every single freaking day. If you have a VA, and I could tell you which way and how
Right.
that VA would reach out, but there's many different commitments depending on if you're a solo person just trying to hustle and grind, or if you have a team of 5 people in a marketing team, right? It depends. So how frequently, and then committing to that. So I could say every Monday from 1 to 3, or every Monday at 12, I'm going to do my Dream 100. So 1 hour
Mhm.
a week, I'm going to reach out to my dream prospects. Then we want to commit to which mediums. So for some people, I call it a poor man's Dream 100, where it doesn't cost you a dime to do it. And
Yeah.
that is where social selling comes in, right? People who sell on social outsell their peers by 78%.
Yes.
It is shocking, the amount of information that we can have through social selling, right? This is how I won ClickFunnels as a client. Russell Brunson and Dave Woodward back in the day, was through just watching everything that they posted and commenting every day for 3 months. Ended up winning them as a client, because I was in their face, in their place, in their space. But what was I showing? That I was committed, that I was interested in what they had to say, that I was trustworthy, that I gave great advice. And none of it was about pitching what I did. It was just about being there and creating top of mind awareness. So, poor man's Dream 100, just on social, just
Mhm.
acknowledging them and what they're doing with their posts, because that's what everybody wants when they post, right? They want acknowledgement.
Sure. Making you aware that I'm existing and I'm in your
Yep.
space.
And then there's many different mediums. So you could decide, even if you found where they are on social and friended them on Facebook and LinkedIn, and if they had a Twitter, if you friended them on all of those things or followed them and then liked or commented on one thing, that right there is 7 touches. Just that alone, the request and a like or a comment. So that shows, oh, this person is acknowledging me. Oh, and they're everywhere. And it triggers something for them to go, okay, there's something different about this person.
Okay.
Then it could be cold email. It could be direct mail. It could be phone calls. It could be showing up at their door. It could
Mhm.
be ads, right? There's so many other mediums. It just depends on what you feel. Well, I'm sorry, I should take that back. It should determine one, where that person spends their time. We had a
Mhm.
real estate broker that came to us. They're like, we're spending $10,000 a month on buses and we promote inside of buses. But they sold $1 million homes. And Troy Iberly, our executive strategy officer, was like, I'm sorry, you think $1 million home buyers are riding the bus inside? It wasn't even outside of the bus, it was inside
Yeah.
the bus.
Yeah.
No, so you have to market where your prospects are,
Yeah.
first step, and then second, what you think that you're actually capable of doing on a routine basis, right? So, very often people say, "Okay, I'll just do the social, Amanda," or people say,
Yeah.
"Okay, I can cold email and social." Then more advanced is, "Okay, I'm going to send a letter in the mail," because physical mail, right, gets past so much more because in our inbox are flooded with people trying to get a hold of us.
Mhm. Do you coach on the messaging? Because I feel like, okay, now I know what to do, I know when to do it, but how to craft a message that actually gets someone's attention. Like I try to think about myself. If someone were to cold email me or cold, uh, direct mail me, what kind of language would get me to pay attention? I think the two things that I always go back to, and I'd be curious as to your thoughts on this, is flattery and humor. I think
Mm.
those two things go a long way. When I'm personally reaching out, I don't want to, it's not over the top flattery. Like they hear it all the time, how great they are. I want to be specific as to why I think that they're great and how that impacts me. And then I like to use humor because if you make someone laugh, you're automatically put in a different echelon than anyone else who reaches out to them. Do you, within your programs, coach on the crafting of the message?
Yes. I also have a very strange side comment. So recently, a friend of mine posted about me on Twitter and said, "Hey, my friend Amanda Holmes is single. She's smart and kind and successful, and men that have their stuff together should DM her." And it went viral in like, this is so strange, but I'll get to the point here. So in 72 hours, I reached 4 million people. And I had 600 men DM me. This is literally like a month and a half ago that happened. And I analyzed, because I love market data and I love analyzing numbers and trends. I analyzed the 600 men that asked me out on Twitter, and only 1.8% of them actually said something meaningful, like what you just said.
Hmm.
They actually observed, they looked at my stuff online, right? Because I got
Made
a
it
plenty.
about you.
Yeah, they made it about me. They made it a joke and something entertaining. They actually voiced about themselves because majority of people fight the losing game. I did this recently in a podcast where I showed, here's all the DMs that I got that were just like fighting a losing battle. Like I got one that a guy said, "Hey, I'm looking for a sugar mama. I don't have 2 pennies to rub together, but I can make you laugh." It was so the weirdest stuff. Um, but it speaks. I couldn't help but tell that story when you said that
That's
because
funny.
fresh for me. I also just posted about it on Friday and it reached like 50,000 new people. It was just,
That's
I don't know
great. And you're
why people
taking
wanna
something
know.
real with the market data. I love that. That's totally a move I would have done is like, let's take something kind of ridiculous, but then
It
let's like do a case study on it.
so ridiculous. We deleted the post because it was so upsetting to me. I normally don't talk about my personal life like that online ever.
Yeah.
So it's strange, but
Well,
that
the question
speaks.
everyone's asking is going to ask, and I have to ask, did you get any dates out of that?
I did. I got 3 and I'm
Okay.
dating one from
Hey, see?
crazy post. Yeah. That's
And
funny.
less than a percentage of a percentage point, and but it works. That's all it needs is one. Like to your point earlier, all you need is one. Um, I want to before we end the show, man, I wanted to talk a little bit about this spiritual healer aspect of your life because you've talked before how the medical help that your father received just wasn't up to par, and you personally have been healed of celiac disease, and this took you on a journey of um, basically trying to figure out how you can, if from what I understand, and you can better explain this, how you can bring your knowledge to a world that is kind of confused in the medical society. So can you tell me what your journey has been there?
Oh, so much. In a short, concise answer, yes.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I happened to meet my spiritual teacher. Her formal title is Sarvalokama, Her Holiness Shri 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 1008 Guruji Punamji, which is a lot, but I just call her Guruji. She's the founder of Divine Bliss International. It's a nonprofit. And I told her, I sat down to dinner with her. She was working with our family, and we had pizza on the table. And she said, "Go ahead and eat." And I said, "I'm sorry, I actually can't eat pizza. The smell of pizza made me nauseous. If I ate it, I would have to go to the hospital."
Mm,
And the people around her at the time were saying, "You'll be fine. You're sitting next to her. It'll be okay." I'm looking at them. You don't understand. Like,
yeah.
I've had this allergy for 15 years. Like, it's
Yeah.
someone had beer on their breath and would talk to me, I would become nauseated. It was that bad.
Mhm.
And she said, "Every disease in the body is a dis-ease of our minds, and just trust and it'll be okay." And that day, I ate pizza for the first time in 15 years, and I thought, "Holy cow." And she said, "I could cure you of that disease, but you'd have to work with me for a longer period of time." So I ended up flying to Singapore. At that time, she had a healing center in Singapore. Now she has one in Florida. That's why I live here. And she rebuilt my stomach lining and helped cure me of celiacs, which is an incurable disease, according to Western doctors. They just say,
Mm.
don't eat. And her whole premise was just around what happens to the mind and how our mind is so much more powerful than we give it credit for. And if we can understand the guilts, the frustrations, the anxieties, the sadness, the fears, the angers, the resentments, then we can heal from the inside out and heal our bodies of these diseases that we create. So I've been studying this for the last over a decade, and I just find it fascinating.
So
She's helped.
can you tell me something? So you rebuilt your stomach lining, and so celiac disease, which is a disease that, if I'm remembering right, of gluten, right? You have a
Yeah,
gluten intolerant. Gluten cannot eat gluten,
yeah.
and so but you're a very healthy person, and obviously you're not trying to eat pizza every single day, and that's not why you cured it. But like, so what is curing of celiac disease actually open up for you personally within your food journey? Because I feel like food is a lot of people struggle with food and like addictions to food and addictions to parts of food so what was that journey like to rebuild your stomach lining and be able to eat these foods? Like, how do you think about pizza differently?
Well, actually, it wasn't just pizza. So I had leaky gut syndrome. So all of the food that I would start to, if I ate a food regularly, I would become allergic to it because there were holes in my digestive lining. So the
Mm.
food would leak into my bloodstream, my antibodies would attack, and I would become.
Oh.
So I was allergic to apples, oranges, bananas, peaches, mushrooms, corn, brewer's yeast, and it just kept cycling all these foods. So I grew up in a wealthy family, right? My father was running a world-class marketing and sales company, and yet I couldn't eat. Just
Mm.
a bare necessity of something. It was next to impossible for me to find any food that I could actually contain and digest. So it completely changed my world that I wasn't allergic to food anymore. My friends for 2 years afterwards loved taking pictures of me eating different wheat products because my
Yeah.
was so animated. But, it
Eating
just
it for the first time.
yeah, it shows you the power of the mind. I'm really big into fasting. I definitely believe that food is medicine, and it's shocking how much of the medical system doesn't believe this. We had doctor after doctor tell my father, "You obviously know more about nutrition than we do, so you can just handle that." The fact that we don't feed ourselves, food that can, rejuvenate the body and just look to a pill is really sad.
Well, it says a lot about your journey personally, like, health and the business. You really took your father's approach at attacking all areas of life in terms of it starting with the mind. This is what you want to accomplish, and actually putting a system in place to actually accomplish that thing. And so you've seen it not only with what you've done in the business, you've seen it what you've done in your own personal health journey, and now helping others in both of those categories with their health and with their business. So where can we find you if we want some more Amanda Holmes?
Yeah. Well, I would say the first step is ultimatesalesmachine.com. People love the book, right? That's a great place to get the book. And then I'm on all social media channels.
Yeah.
I
Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm excited for people to write in the show. So podcast at realproducersmag.com, and the subject line put Dream 100, and we will send you a copy of my personal letter that I used years ago. And then the first person to email from this show will receive a copy of Amanda Holmes. And who knows, she may be speaking at an event where she can sign it for you in the future.
Wouldn't that be great?
Amanda, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time. If you have any questions or if you want to influence who we speak to on the show or what we talk about, email us again, podcast at realproducersmag.com. We'll see you next time.